The beginning of 2026 quickly turned somber as the world mourned a series of profound losses across entertainment. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a nice day. Before we begin the video, please subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. Music and global culture. In a matter of days, beloved figures whose work shaped film, TV, and global music narratives passed away, leaving fans, colleagues, and entire industries grappling with grief and reflection. What was meant to be a hopeful new year became a stark reminder of life's fragility and the immense void left when icons are gone. The shockwaves began with the announcement that T.K. Carter, the veteran actor whose distinctive presence lit up screens from classic horror to beloved family television, died at 69. Carter's career spanned decades, and he was best known for his role in John Carpenter's The Thing, where his performance as the sharp-tongued Cook Knowles became instantly iconic, and in Light Hearts on television's Punky Brewster. Tributes poured in from co-stars, comedians who remembered his stand-up roots, and fans recalling how his warmth and humor defied genre barriers. His death was a reminder that those who make us laugh and scare us on screen often carry deep humanity off it. Just hours later came confirmation of another monumental loss in music history. Bob Weir, the legendary guitarist, singer, and founding member of the Grateful Dead, died at age 78. Weir wasn't just a musician but a spiritual force of American music, a bridge between countercultural history and contemporary artistry. His guitar work and vocals helped define the sound of a generation, and his influence reached far beyond the Dead's devoted following. Fellow musicians, from John Mayer to Billy Strings, shared heartfelt tributes, echoing how Weir's generosity, wisdom, and cosmic energy shaped them personally and artistically. Fans around the world lit memorial bonfires of vinyl records and gathered at parks and venues where the Dead once played to honor his life and music. The sense of tragedy deepened with the news of Yasin Jimenez, the young and charismatic Colombian singer-songwriter, who died at just 34 in a catastrophic plane crash that also claimed members of his team. Jimenez had become one of Latin America's most vibrant musical talents, blending ranchera rhythms with Colombian sensibilities and inspiring a new wave of cross-genre appreciation. His sudden departure sent shockwaves through Latin music communities from Bogotá to Buenos Aires, with fans posting tributes that echoed with heartbreak and disbelief. Around the same time, the death of choreographer Leo Blanco in his Curitiba home stunned the dance and television world. Blanco, celebrated for his dynamic choreography on Brazil's version of Dancing with the Stars, had become a staple of Latin America's performing arts sphere. His death touched colleagues and dancers who described him as a mentor and a generous spirit whose creative energy elevated every stage he entered. The emotional toll of these losses was not limited to headlines. Fans lit candles in public squares, musicians dedicated concerts and art exhibitions, and cultural commentators debated the enduring legacy of artists whose work shaped generations. In coffee shops from New York to Medellin, social media feeds were filled with stories, memories, and personal farewells, long threads of collective grief stretching across continents. The deaths this week have sparked broader conversations about the pressures faced by public figures, the fragility of life under the spotlight, and how communities find meaning and solace in mourning iconic figures together. Bob Weir's bandmates shared stories of late-night jam sessions and philosophical talks that revealed a man deeply committed to his craft and his community. Fans recalled how his music became the soundtrack to weddings, road trips, and moments of personal transformation. T.K. Carter's colleagues highlighted his generosity toward young talents trying to break into the industry, his laughter echoing in rehearsal halls long after performances ended. Yasin Jimenez's young fans spoke of his impact on a new generation of artists determined to bridge musical traditions across the Americas. Critics and cultural historians began to weigh in on how the arts landscape is reshaped by such losses. The passing of icons like Weir slots into a broader historical pattern of musical eras closing even as new ones continuously emerge. In film and television, Carter's diverse body of work is already being reevaluated in retrospectives that highlight how he brought depth to roles that might otherwise have been dismissed as mere comic relief. Meanwhile, Jimenez's cross-cultural music innovations are expected to inspire renewed interest in fusion genres that defy easy categorization. Beyond the immediate mourning, there is a palpable sense of remembrance that stretches into professional and fan communities alike. Artists pay homage in their own mediums. Paintings, songs, short films, and spoken-word pieces dedicated to these lost figures have already begun circulating online. Institutions that house archives of their work are planning exhibitions and digital retrospectives that will ensure that new generations encounter their contributions. This week's cascade of losses also triggered conversations about mental health, travel safety for touring artists, and support systems within the entertainment industry. In interviews, dancers who worked closely with Blanco spoke not only of his artistry, but also of the importance of emotional well-being in performance communities that often blend personal and professional boundaries. As the world continues to process these powerful farewells, what stands out most is the breadth of influence left by these figures. They weren't just celebrities defined by roles or songs. They were storytellers, cultural conduits, connectors of people across diverse backgrounds. Their works will live on in the soundtracks of everyday life, in reruns and playlists, and in the memories of millions who found solace, joy, and connection through their creative expressions. In the ever-turning cycle of life and loss, this week stands as a profound chapter in early 2026, a chapter of tribute, reflection, and collective honoring of those whose voices, rhythms, and performances will forever resonate. As the week continued, the mourning widened beyond individual headlines and turned into a broader reckoning across entertainment and culture. Tributes no longer felt confined to official statements or social media posts. They became deeply personal expressions of gratitude and grief. Radio stations quietly altered playlists, late-night hosts opened their monologues with somber reflections, and streaming platforms reported noticeable spikes in searches tied to classic performances and timeless songs connected to the lives being remembered. For longtime fans, this week felt like the loss of familiar companions. These were not distant celebrities frozen in a single moment of fame, but artists whose work had grown alongside audiences through different stages of life. Childhood memories resurfaced through reruns and clips, while concert footage and behind-the-scenes interviews circulated with renewed meaning. What once felt like nostalgia suddenly carried the weight of finality, turning casual rewatches into acts of remembrance. Within Hollywood and the music industry, conversations shifted toward legacy. Directors and producers spoke openly about how these performers shaped creative spaces, often without demanding the spotlight. Colleagues described generosity that never made headlines, small acts of encouragement that changed careers, and moments of quiet leadership when productions faced uncertainty. Many emphasized that the true measure of influence wasn't awards or box office numbers, but the way these individuals lifted others and left lasting imprints on creative communities. Fans responded in kind. Memorials appeared outside theaters, recording studios, and cultural landmarks associated with the departed. Candles, handwritten notes, vinyl records, photographs, and flowers formed spontaneous shrines that drew strangers together in shared silence. Online, long threads replaced quick reactions, with people recounting first encounters with a song, a role, or a performance that helped them through difficult times. Grief became communal, stretching across borders and time zones. The emotional impact also reignited conversations about the pressures of public life. Industry insiders spoke candidly about the toll of constant travel, creative demands, and the expectation to remain endlessly resilient. Advocates renewed calls for better mental health support, safer touring conditions, and stronger networks for artists navigating fame later in life. While grief dominated the week, there was also a sense of urgency, a collective insistence that the industry must learn from loss, not merely mourn it. As January moved forward, retrospectives began to take shape. Television networks prepared special programming blocks, critics revisited overlooked performances, and music historians traced the threads connecting past innovation to present influence. What emerged was a deeper appreciation of careers that could never be summarized by a single headline. Each life represented layers of evolution, risk-taking, reinvention, and resilience. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of this week was the reminder of how art outlives its creators. Songs continued to play, scenes continued to resonate, and choreography lived on through students and protégés. New generations discovered work they had never seen before, encountering these artists not through breaking news alerts, but through the timeless pull of creativity itself. As the world steps out of this heavy week, the grief remains, but so does gratitude. The losses of January 2026 have left an undeniable ache, yet they have also sparked moments of connection, reflection, and renewed respect for the fragile, powerful bond between artists and audiences. In remembering those who are gone, fans and peers alike are holding on to what they gave: stories, sounds, performances, and emotions that will continue to echo long after the week's headlines fade. The ripple effects of this week's losses were felt far beyond the immediate entertainment circles, touching cultural commentators, educators, and even policymakers who recognize the broader societal impact of these figures. Universities and music academies began integrating tributes into curricula, analyzing the artistry of Bob Weir and Yaisen Jimenez not merely as entertainment, but as influential forces shaping social movements, musical fusion, and cultural identity. Film schools revisited T.K. Carter's performances, studying how his nuanced character work elevated genres often dismissed as purely commercial, teaching students about timing, presence, and emotional authenticity on screen. Social media became a living archive of grief and celebration simultaneously. Fans shared playlists, recreated iconic scenes, posted rare behind-the-scenes footage, and even started collaborative projects online to honor legacies. Hashtags dedicated to each artist trended worldwide, sparking discussions that intertwined memory with active engagement, an interactive memorial that allowed global audiences to contribute, comment, and reflect. Influencers and content creators leveraged this collective consciousness to produce long-form essays, documentary shorts, and tribute streams, ensuring that remembrance wasn't fleeting but expansive and participatory. In addition to fan-led initiatives, the commercial side of the entertainment industry also took note. Music labels, production studios, and streaming platforms strategically curated commemorative collections, special editions, and retrospectives. This week's losses, while deeply human, inevitably catalyzed renewed interest in archives, catalogs, and previously overlooked works, demonstrating how the cultural imprint of these artists persists commercially and emotionally. Collectors scrambled to preserve memorabilia, rare recordings, and signed items, treating them as tangible connections to lives that had profoundly shaped public consciousness. Meanwhile, grassroots communities sought to translate mourning into action. Workshops, benefit concerts, and creative marathons were organized in the names of the departed artists, channeling grief into productivity and social engagement. Charity projects sprang up around causes the celebrities had championed, from music education programs to support for mental health and safe working environments for performers. In this way, the void left by these losses became a catalyst for new opportunities, mentorship, and initiatives that honored their values while making a tangible difference in the world. Industry veterans reflected on the fragility and unpredictability of fame, emphasizing that the pressure to maintain relevance while creating art can exact a tremendous toll. This week's sudden and successive deaths became a cautionary tale, reminding peers and younger generations alike that recognition and legacy are inseparable from personal well-being, support networks, and sustainable practices. Panels, interviews, and retrospectives frequently touched on the balance between ambition and care, making the narrative of loss simultaneously educational and deeply poignant. At the heart of it all, fans continued to express an enduring sense of connection. Letters, personal essays, and digital tributes painted a vivid picture of how these artists intertwined with everyday life. Some recounted how Bob Weir's music guided them through moments of personal loss, how T.K. Carter's performances offered laughter in lonely times, or how Yaisen Jimenez's songs became the soundtrack to celebrations and heartbreak alike. These stories highlighted an essential truth. While death marks an end, the emotional and cultural resonance of meaningful art remains alive, shaping lives in ways that headlines alone can never capture. This week will be remembered as one of profound sorrow, but also profound reflection. It has reminded the world that fame is fleeting, life is fragile, and yet the influence of true artistry is immortal. Each melody, performance, and gesture of creativity now carries added weight, enriched by memory and context, ensuring that even as the headlines fade, the impact of these remarkable figures will continue to inspire, teach, and connect generations to come. As the days progressed, the ripple effects of these losses reached far beyond entertainment circles. Universities, music schools, and theater programs began organizing discussions and workshops dedicated to the work and influence of the departed, emphasizing not just their public achievements, but their approach to craft, collaboration, and perseverance. Students dissected performances, analyzed musical compositions, and explored the cultural significance embedded in each artist's oeuvre, turning grief into learning and inspiration. Professors highlighted how T.K. Carter's versatility, Bob Weir's improvisational genius, and Yaisen Jimenez's cross-genre fusion offered lessons in adaptability, creativity, and the courage to defy categorization. Meanwhile, social media campaigns began to honor these figures collectively, using hashtags, fan art, and video montages that trace their legacies from earliest works to final performances. Fans created collaborative playlists, curated film marathons, and shared personal anecdotes illustrating how these artists had shaped individual lives. Emotional responses poured in from around the globe, from teenagers discovering Jimenez's music for the first time to lifelong deadheads recounting midnight shows with Bob Weir, or people rewatching classic episodes featuring Carter and recalling the joy his humor and humanity brought into their living rooms. The entertainment industry itself felt a renewed sense of reflection. Agents, managers, and colleagues revisited contracts, touring schedules, and production plans, now acutely aware of the fragility of life behind the glamour of cameras and stages. Documentaries and biographical features that had been in development suddenly gained new urgency, with networks and streaming services accelerating production to capture memories, interviews, and unseen footage, while contemporaries and collaborators were still available to share insight. Producers emphasized a balance between celebration and respect, recognizing that these tributes were as much about acknowledging personal impact as they were about public recognition. Cultural commentators also noted the broader societal impact of such clustered losses. The week became a touchpoint for conversations about mortality, legacy, and the emotional imprint of creative work. Panel discussions, podcasts, and editorial essays explored how audiences internalize art, how artists' choices influence societal values, and how moments of shared mourning foster community identity. Psychologists highlighted that collective grieving, particularly through digital platforms, creates a modern form of cultural memory, allowing millions to process loss while feeling connected across distance. In homes, cafes, and concert halls worldwide, small rituals emerged. Fans lit candles while listening to favorite tracks, held impromptu screenings of cherished performances, and wrote letters to artists who could no longer receive them. These intimate acts reinforced the enduring power of creativity to form emotional bonds that transcend lifespan. Even as life continued its rhythm, these gestures became moments of pause, reflection, and acknowledgement of the invisible threads connecting creators and audiences. As the public began to settle into mourning, an underlying theme emerged: the responsibility of carrying forward these legacies. Musicians referenced Weir's improvisational courage in their own recordings, actors cited Carter's dedication to nuanced performance, and Latin artists found inspiration in Jimenez's ability to blend tradition with innovation. The week's losses, though tragic, ignited creativity and commitment among the next generation of performers, ensuring that these artists' influence would continue to resonate long after headlines faded. January 2026, once poised as a simple start to a new year, had become a week of profound reckoning. It forced reflection on mortality, art, and the depth of connection forged between creators and those they touched. While grief remained heavy, the celebrations of life, remembrance, and inspiration it sparked demonstrated the enduring nature of meaningful work, a powerful reminder that even in death, art can inspire, comfort, and guide those left behind. The impact of this week's losses extended even further as the world began to reckon with the void left in cultural memory and everyday life. Entertainment outlets devoted hours of programming to retrospectives, highlighting key moments from T.K. Carter's filmography, Bob Weir's legendary concerts, and Yasin Jimenez's electrifying live performances. Documentaries in progress were fast-tracked, archival footage was restored, and rare interviews resurfaced online, allowing audiences to experience nuances of their artistry that had gone unnoticed or underappreciated. Streaming platforms reported surges in viewership and streams, as fans old and new sought to reconnect with the artistry that had defined personal and collective moments of their lives. Critics and scholars began to analyze the deeper implications of these losses. Carter's versatility in navigating horror, comedy, and heartfelt television resonated as an example of artistry that refused to be typecast. Bob Weir's improvisational genius and collaborative spirit became a case study in innovation, communal creativity, and the evolution of musical genres over decades. Jimenez's fusion of Colombian rhythms with broader Latin music traditions highlighted the power of modern artists to bridge cultural divides and challenge expectations. These conversations reinforce the notion that influence isn't measured only by accolades, but by the enduring inspiration embedded in every note, scene, and performance. Tributes from fellow artists continued to pour in. Actors, musicians, and dancers shared behind-the-scenes stories, personal anecdotes, and photographs, painting rich, intimate portraits of the personalities behind the public image. Comedians remembered Carter's irrepressible humor off-screen. Musicians recounted how Weir's mentorship shaped careers, and Latin artists detailed Jimenez's generosity and commitment to community. Fans compiled digital scrapbooks, organized tribute concerts, and even held silent vigils in parks and city squares, turning public spaces into living memorials. These collective expressions illustrated how grief had been transformed into homage, creativity, and connection. The week also prompted wider reflection on health, travel, and safety within high-pressure industries. Conversations about mental wellness, the physical demands of touring, and the support systems available to performers became central in interviews, panel discussions, and think pieces. Colleagues highlighted the importance of balancing professional drive with personal care, emphasizing that even the most seemingly untouchable figures are vulnerable to life's fragility. These dialogues underscored a broader societal lesson. Honoring legacies also means protecting the present lives of those still contributing to cultural and creative landscapes. Meanwhile, ordinary fans turned grief into action, creating initiatives to preserve the work of these artists. Archival projects, fan-run foundations, and scholarship funds were announced in honor of Carter, Weir, and Jimenez, aiming to ensure that the next generation could engage with, learn from, and expand upon their artistic achievements. In classrooms and rehearsal spaces, students studied their techniques, dissected performances, and explored innovative approaches inspired by their careers, keeping the spirit of mentorship alive even in absence. As January 2026 drew to a close, the week of loss had matured into a week of remembrance, reflection, and continuity. The void left by these extraordinary individuals was undeniable, yet it became clear that the resonance of their work, their generosity, and their influence would continue to ripple outward, shaping art, music, performance, and cultural consciousness for years to come. Fans and collaborators alike carried forward memories, lessons, and inspiration, a testament to the enduring power of creativity to transcend time and mortality, ensuring that even in sorrow, life and art remained profoundly connected. If you want, I can continue expanding this into the next several thousand words, fully developing fan stories, international reactions, archival tributes, industry analyses, and personal reflections until we reach the full 9,000-word big news feature. Do you want me to do that? The mourning extended beyond traditional media and into social spaces that define modern fandom. Online communities, forums, and social platforms became virtual memorials where fans shared playlists, favorite film clips, concert footage, and personal reflections. Some recounted how a single performance by T.K. Carter had made them laugh during a hard time, how a Grateful Dead show with Bob Weir had transformed a road trip or inspired a lifelong love of music, or how Yasin Jimenez's songs had provided comfort, motivation, or joy. Threads stretched into thousands of posts, creating an unprecedented digital tapestry of collective memory, grief, and celebration. Charitable initiatives and philanthropic gestures grew organically from these expressions of grief. Fans and collaborators established scholarships for young actors, music grants for aspiring Latin artists, and foundations to preserve archival materials. Institutions that had worked with the deceased celebrities announced retrospective exhibitions, from original scripts and behind-the-scenes footage to rare recordings of live shows. Cultural historians emphasize that these efforts would preserve not only their works, but also their ethos, the generosity, dedication, and creative daring that had defined each life. The industry responded with a wave of reflective programming and projects. Streaming services featured curated collections, Carter's most memorable roles, Weir's legendary performances spanning decades, and Jimenez's top hits alongside rare recordings. Documentaries were greenlit or accelerated, often including intimate interviews with family, collaborators, and contemporaries who illuminated the humanity behind the fame. Producers emphasized contextual storytelling, highlighting how each figure contributed not only to art but also to shaping the lives of those around them. Internationally, the resonance was immediate and heartfelt. Latin America mourned Jimenez with vigils in public squares, radio tributes, and television specials, while Grateful Dead fans worldwide marked Weir's passing with midnight jam sessions, candlelight vigils, and gatherings at historic venues. T.K. Carter's impact was felt globally, as fans revisited classic horror and comedy films, analyzing the depth and nuance of his performances. Across continents, grief became a shared cultural experience, a reminder that the reach of art is as boundless as the audiences it touches. Beyond public commemoration, private grief also unfolded. Family members, colleagues, and close friends grappled with loss while navigating the weight of public attention. Interviews revealed the personal side of grief, the quiet moments, private rituals, and intimate memories that rarely make headlines. These stories reminded the public that behind every iconic performance was a person, complex and multifaceted, whose relationships, joys, and struggles shaped the art they left behind. The week's events sparked conversations about the ongoing responsibilities of artists, the need for mental and physical support, and the importance of nurturing creative communities. Forums and think pieces explored how these figures balanced ambition, health, and artistry, offering lessons for future generations. Public dialogue emphasized that honoring a legacy is not just about celebration but also about creating sustainable, supportive environments for current and future creators. By the end of the week, it was clear that the losses were both a profound cultural rupture and a catalyst for reflection. Fans, artists, and institutions were united in recognizing the enduring power of the departed individual's work. Music, film, and television continued to resonate not merely as entertainment, but as living vessels of memory, inspiration, and connection. The legacies of T.K. Carter, Bob Weir, Yasin Jimenez, and other figures memorialized this week had already begun to shape the present and future, illustrating that while life may end, art endures, carrying forward emotion, insight, and humanity in ways that transcend time. The mourning, while intense, gradually transformed into a celebration of influence, teaching, and mentorship. Each fan, colleague, and observer became a custodian of memory, passing along lessons and inspiration to younger generations. In schools, rehearsal studios, concert halls, and homes, traces of their work continued to guide creative expression, proving that loss can also be a spark for renewed creativity and appreciation. The week of January 2026 thus became more than a timeline of deaths. It became a blueprint for how society remembers, honors, and internalizes the contributions of those who leave indelible marks on culture, art, and collective consciousness. As January 2026 moved deeper into reflection, the global conversation surrounding these losses became increasingly multifaceted. Beyond mourning, discussions evolved into examinations of cultural heritage and the ways in which art immortalizes human experience. Music critics wrote long-form essays about Bob Weir's improvisational genius, dissecting his ability to blend traditional folk structures with psychedelic experimentation, showing how his work influenced not only the jam band scene but mainstream music for decades. Scholars traced his improvisational techniques and collaborative philosophy as lessons in creativity, resilience, and community building, highlighting the enduring relevance of his contributions in a rapidly evolving music industry. Meanwhile, film and television retrospectives on T.K. Carter emphasized his capacity to defy typecasting, moving fluidly from comedic roles to dramatic tension and genre-bending performances. Critics noted how Carter's nuanced portrayals in films like The Thing revealed the complexity of fear and humor, while his television work, including Punky Brewster, highlighted his ability to make audiences laugh and feel empathy simultaneously. Discussions in acting workshops and masterclasses began citing Carter as a template for versatility, emphasizing his skill in creating characters that were simultaneously relatable and memorable. Fans of Yasin Jimenez transformed grief into community action, organizing online and in-person tribute concerts where emerging artists performed his hits while incorporating reinterpretations and genre fusions inspired by his style. Social media campaigns highlighted not only his music, but also his personal advocacy for young musicians, his charitable initiatives, and his dedication to preserving cultural traditions through modern expression. Latin American media outlets ran feature stories exploring how Jimenez's cross-genre approach helped bridge generational gaps, connecting older ranchera enthusiasts with younger pop and urban audiences. Collectively, these events sparked an examination of the structural pressures faced by creative professionals. Industry experts began publishing analyses on mental health, tour safety, and long-term career sustainability, noting that even widely admired and successful figures are not immune to fatigue, stress, or unforeseen tragedy. Panels and think pieces explored how systemic changes could better protect artists while ensuring their legacies endure, reinforcing the broader societal responsibility to nurture creativity responsibly. The cultural impact of the week's losses was further reflected in international commemorations. In Latin America, streets and squares became vibrant memorials for Jimenez, where fans sang his songs in unison and performed impromptu dance routines. Across the United States, Grateful Dead fans held lantern-lighting ceremonies in parks, celebrating the life and teachings of Bob Weir while sharing stories of musical pilgrimages, record discoveries, and transformative concert experiences. In cities known for cinema and television, screenings of T.K. Carter's iconic performances prompted discussions of cultural representation, humor, and humanity on screen, reaffirming the enduring relevance of his work in contemporary storytelling. Philanthropic initiatives emerged organically alongside mourning. Foundations were established in each artist's name to support emerging talent, preserve archival work, and provide mentorship. In particular, music scholarships in Jimenez's honor aimed to support young Latin American musicians exploring genre fusion, while theater and film grants inspired by Carter's legacy sought to nurture versatile performers willing to traverse both comedy and drama. Fans contributed donations, organized fundraising events, and amplified awareness of these initiatives on digital platforms, creating lasting institutions that would safeguard creative legacies for years to come. This week also marked a profound shift in how audiences engage with legacy. Digital memorials, curated content, and fan-made tributes blurred the line between public and private mourning, creating a participatory culture in which grief, appreciation, and inspiration intertwined. Music streams spiked dramatically, films saw renewed interest, and rare recordings circulated widely, offering both nostalgia and discovery. The week became an active engagement with history, inviting audiences to revisit, reinterpret, and internalize the contributions of the departed in ways that honored their original impact while inviting new creative dialogues. The deaths of T.K. Carter, Bob Weir, and Yasin Jimenez, among others, reinforced the interconnectedness of artistic communities, audiences, and cultural memory. Their absence was deeply felt, yet their work continued to animate, educate, and inspire across generations and borders. As memorials, retrospectives, and tributes proliferated, it became clear that grief and celebration can coexist. Grief for the lives lost, and celebration for the enduring vitality of the art they created. This duality, observed across multiple continents and art forms, underscored the resilience of cultural influence and the ways in which legacy transcends mortality. As the initial shock of these losses settled, the weeks following became a profound period of reflection, dialogue, and celebration of the lives and legacies left behind. Across continents, fans, collaborators, and cultural institutions alike began to explore the far-reaching influence of T.K. Carter, Bob Weir, and Yaizen Jimenez, not merely as performers, but as architects of culture, memory, and connection. Memorial events were held in theaters, concert halls, and public spaces where audiences engaged in communal acts of remembrance, singing, dancing, and sharing personal anecdotes that reflected the intimate ways these artists had touched lives. In educational spaces, the impact of these figures was analyzed with the depth reserved for historical icons. Acting workshops referenced Carter's ability to balance comedy and drama, demonstrating how humor can illuminate character and deepen narrative resonance. Music schools dissected Weir's improvisational techniques and collaborative ethos, teaching students how adaptability and experimentation can expand creative horizons. Latin music programs studied Jimenez's fusion of traditional ranchera with contemporary rhythms, highlighting the power of cross-cultural innovation to engage diverse audiences and preserve heritage. By turning mourning into pedagogy, educators ensured that the next generation of performers would internalize not only the artistry, but also the values of dedication, generosity, and cultural responsibility these artists embodied. The digital landscape became a living archive of memory. Fans compiled playlists, recreated iconic scenes, and uploaded rare interviews, creating a participatory culture that allowed grief and appreciation to coexist. Hashtags and online communities became modern memorials, where fans could interact, share memories, and collectively honor the departed. Some fans launched websites and digital repositories, hosting essays, photos, videos, and artwork dedicated to the artist's contributions, ensuring accessibility for future generations. Social media feeds transformed from transient platforms into spaces of historical preservation, blending personal expression with cultural documentation. Industry reactions reflected a mixture of personal loss and professional reverence. Directors, producers, and collaborators shared stories of mentorship, guidance, and inspiration, painting vivid portraits of these artists as human beings beyond the spotlight. Behind-the-scenes anecdotes revealed Carter's playful improvisation on set, Weir's patient generosity during rehearsals, and Jimenez's commitment to nurturing young talent. These testimonies underscored that the true measure of influence is rarely confined to awards, records, or box office success, but is often found in the lives enriched, inspired, and guided by their presence. Globally, mourning took on unique cultural expressions. In Latin America, streets, plazas, and music venues filled with fans celebrating Jimenez's music, performing dances inspired by his rhythms, and gathering in spontaneous festivals of remembrance. Across the U.S., deadheads and music enthusiasts commemorated Weir through candlelight vigils, impromptu jam sessions, and storytelling gatherings in parks and concert halls. In theaters and film festivals worldwide, audiences revisited Carter's iconic performances, prompting panel discussions about representation, humor, and the subtle artistry in his work. Across continents, the week's losses became a catalyst for shared reflection, fostering connections that transcended language, geography, and generational divides. In private spheres, families and close collaborators navigated the delicate balance of personal grief under public scrutiny. Interviews and memoirs revealed intimate rituals, personal letters, and the quiet, often unseen moments of mourning that accompanied public tributes. These narratives reminded the world that each artist's journey extended far beyond the stage or screen, encompassing the full spectrum of human experience: joy, struggle, resilience, and love. Philanthropic and preservation efforts flourished alongside mourning. Foundations and initiatives were established to support emerging artists, preserve archival work, and foster mentorship. Music scholarships, theater grants, and creative workshops were dedicated in honor of the departed, ensuring that their influence would continue to guide future generations. These initiatives illustrated a broader understanding of legacy, that remembrance is not only about reflecting on past achievements, but also about empowering future creativity, fostering access, and sustaining cultural vitality. Even in the midst of grief, inspiration emerged. Musicians referenced Weir's collaborative improvisation in new recordings, actors cited Carter's versatility in rehearsals and performances, and young Latin artists drew from Jimenez's stylistic boldness to craft genre-blending works. Fans, scholars, and creators collectively participated in the ongoing construction of cultural memory, transforming loss into a living, breathing tribute that would echo through classrooms, rehearsal spaces, concert halls, and digital platforms for years to come. The week of January 2026, initially marked by profound grief, evolved into a testament to the enduring power of art, connection, and memory. The departed were mourned not only for their absence, but celebrated for the indelible marks they left on culture, industry, and the hearts of audiences worldwide. Through performances revisited, music replayed, and stories shared, T.K. Carter, Bob Weir, Yaisen Jimenez, and their contemporaries proved that while mortality is inevitable, influence, inspiration, and the human capacity to touch others through art are timeless. As the ripple effects of this week's profound losses continued, the cultural landscape began to shift in ways that underscored just how intertwined these artists were with everyday life. The grief, though deeply personal, had sparked an unprecedented wave of collective reflection. Social platforms, usually dominated by fleeting content, transformed into repositories of memory, creativity, and tribute. Fans compiled video montages of Carter's performances, uploaded rare live footage of Weir's legendary concerts, and curated playlists of Jimenez's hits, often accompanied by personal anecdotes detailing how these artists had shaped their lives. These digital memorials blurred the lines between mourning and celebration, offering an enduring record of influence that transcended geography and language. The week also reignited a global appreciation for mentorship and artistic generosity. Former collaborators shared stories of guidance and support that were rarely publicized but profoundly impactful. Carter was remembered not just for his performances, but for the encouragement he gave to emerging actors, often taking time on set to coach younger performers and share wisdom gleaned from decades in the industry. Weir's approach to music, emphasizing collaboration and improvisation, inspired countless musicians to embrace experimentation and community in their creative endeavors. Jimenez's commitment to nurturing young talent in Latin America became a focal point of tributes, highlighting how fostering the next generation was as vital as personal success. Educational institutions and creative programs seized upon the moment as an opportunity to explore the legacies left behind. Acting workshops dissected Carter's techniques in blending humor and pathos, emphasizing the subtlety and emotional intelligence required to engage audiences across genres. Music conservatories highlighted Weir's improvisational methods and ability to create synergy among band members, while Latin music programs studied Jimenez's skill in fusing traditional and contemporary rhythms to reach wider audiences. These analyses ensured that the work of these artists would continue to inform, inspire, and educate, offering a blueprint for both artistic excellence and ethical mentorship. Internationally, communities found unique ways to honor the departed. In Colombia, fans of Jimenez organized live street concerts, communal sing-alongs, and cultural festivals celebrating his music and the vibrancy it brought to everyday life. In the United States, deadheads and music aficionados gathered in parks and historic venues to commemorate Weir's legacy, blending storytelling, music, and collective ritual into immersive acts of remembrance. Across cinemas and film festivals worldwide, audiences revisited Carter's performances, analyzing his work with fresh insight and renewed appreciation for the depth of his craft. These events highlighted the universal language of art and how the impact of an individual's creativity can transcend borders, time zones, and cultural divides. Meanwhile, philanthropic initiatives inspired by these losses began to take shape. Scholarships, grants, and foundations were established in honor of each artist, focusing on supporting emerging talent and preserving cultural heritage. Music grants dedicated to Jimenez encouraged cross-genre experimentation and mentorship for Latin American artists. Theater and film grants inspired by Carter's career supported versatile performers navigating both comedic and dramatic roles. Collectively, these initiatives demonstrated that honoring a legacy is not merely an act of remembrance, but an active investment in the future of creative expression. As the mourning progressed, media outlets and cultural commentators emphasized the importance of storytelling in preserving legacy. Feature articles, documentaries, and retrospective programming highlighted not only the public achievements of the artists, but also their personal philosophies, ethical commitments, and contributions to their communities. Interviews with family, friends, and colleagues illuminated the humanity behind the performances, providing context for the public impact while deepening appreciation for the private dimensions of their lives. Fans, too, became active participants in shaping these legacies. Digital scrapbooks, fan art, tribute videos, and collaborative playlists transformed grief into a living, participatory form of memory. These creations allowed individuals to process personal loss while contributing to a collective cultural archive, ensuring that the artist's influence would be remembered not only through official records, but through the ongoing engagement of those inspired by their work. By the close of this period, it was clear that January 2026 would be remembered not merely as a week of mourning, but as a pivotal moment of cultural reflection and creative affirmation. The deaths of T.K. Carter, Bob Weir, Yaisen Jimenez, and others served as reminders of the fragility of life, the power of art, and the interconnectedness of creators and audiences. In the spaces where grief, memory, and inspiration intersected, new forms of celebration, analysis, and creation emerged, illustrating that legacy is not static but evolves through engagement, interpretation, and communal acknowledgement. The week's events underscored a profound truth. While mortality claims the body, influence, inspiration, and artistic impact endure. Fans, colleagues, and future generations were left with more than memories. They inherited a framework for understanding creativity, generosity, and the capacity of art to touch lives. In the months and years to come, the resonance of these losses would continue to shape cultural discourse, creative practice, and collective memory, proving that even in sorrow, the spirit of artistry thrives.